inside one of the sound stages that they actually used to film the show Parenthood. This is a really rare opportunity. So again, as we get off the trolley here, feel free to leave anything on board, but just make sure you put it on the ground, and you're going to follow Paul inside of 43.
About some of those elephant doors, which are these massive doors. They were named that back in the 20s because they had to be big enough to get an elephant through. We actually used to film with a ton of animals. So all of our stages were equipped to house even the biggest animals when we needed to film there. Now they're about 98% soundproof. They're not 100% because those doors are so massive. They let in a tiny, tiny bit of sound. That's why when we drove by CSI, you saw that wigwag light. We had to go off mic for just a few moments. That's because they let in a tiny bit of sound, but for the most part, they're fairly soundproof. Unless there's something right outside the door making noise, like Brittany on a microphone, they're not going to be that disturbed in here. And the reason that we would film inside of a soundstage is so that we can have complete control of the elements. We can control the lighting, we can control the weather, we can film no matter what time of day it is, and we can make it any time of day we want. One of the ways we do that is through this thing right here, this giant thing surrounding the set that looks like a big shower curtain. It's called a cyclorama, and it essentially is a big shower curtain. And this is kind of a rare example for you guys because they don't normally have one of the curtains up. But if you come in here, you can see they have one of the sheets up for the cyclorama. What they do with the cyclorama is they just pull a sheet across the entire set. That way when they're filming out of these windows, you can see the background of this sheet. And they have sheets that look like the daytime, they have sheets that look like the nighttime. And they have these big lights all around us. The flat ones are called pancake lights, and the ones with white rims are the lights they use when they're filming for the daytime sets, and the ones with the black rims are the lights they use for the nighttime scenes. So that's why they use the cyclorama, and you're never really going to get a very good look at the cyclorama during the movie. You're never going to see a shot straight on because you probably realize it's just a painted sheet. That way you can see all of these vines, you can see the things on the porch kind of obstructing the view. You can see the sheer curtain on the inside of that window. You can kind of see through it. It's not going to give you a full look at any of the things outside because as you can tell, looking at this stage, it looks very fake on the outside. When we go inside, you're going to be able to see what it looks like on the inside. It looks very realistic on the inside. And as I was saying, we film it here so we can control all of the elements. So let's go ahead and take a look inside Adam Braverman's home. Do we have any Parenthood fans hanging out? Really? Okay, we got a couple. This is the home of Adam Braverman. Parenthood is about 3 generations of the Braverman family, and this is the eldest sibling. It's about the grandparents and all of their children. And this is the home of Adam and Christine Braverman, played by Peter Krause and Monica Potter. So let's go ahead and take a look inside so you can see what the inside of the set looks like.
You don't see those on the ground. No, you don't.
Come on in, don't be shy. While you're in here, I will ask that you don't touch anything. You can take as many photos as you want, but please don't touch anything. And also try not to lean on any walls. Because some of the walls in here are wild walls. What that means is they can be moved out, and sometimes they're on wheels, so you don't know which ones will slide. That way they can get the cameras into any position they need to. And what's the first thing you guys notice about this house when you walk in? That's not like a normal house.
There's no ceiling.
Correct, no ceiling. That's so our crew members can stay up there and control all the elements from up above while never being in frame. Now, it's a fairly standard show. There's not a lot of dramatic angles shooting up someone's nostrils where you can see the ceiling. But if there is ever a shot where you can catch some of the ceiling in frame, you can see that screen that's over that back corner there. They can just throw those into any of the frames if you're catching the ceiling, but usually you don't. The cameras are usually head on, kind of filming the actor straight on instead of the crazy dramatic angles. And you can see all the lights that are above us and just how many lights it actually takes to light a scene. Now, currently we're being lit by the harsh lights of this warehouse. But those are not what's going to be lighting the scene, because those aren't going to be bright enough for us to actually see the characters. It's not going to look like actual lighting in a home. Like when you're standing in here, it might not feel like a home. But when we get back on the trolley, Brittany will play a clip of what this scene looks like when it's completely lit, and you guys can see just how realistic it looks when they're actually filming in here. They also have all this scaffolding, that way our crew members can just walk around from upstairs. They can do all of the sound work from up there. They do all the lighting work from up there. That way the actors have freedom to move around in here. And also that way the camera people do as well. If you've watched the show, you might have noticed a lot of Steadicam and a lot of handheld cameras. That's because the actors are kind of in their environment, they're in their space, and the cameramen are just kind of moving around them with the Steadicam, trying to stay out of the way to capture as much of the action as they can. Let's go ahead and take a look over at the kitchen. Oh wait, first, check out this stairway that's leading up to this second story. Now if there's scaffolding up there, obviously there's no second story above us, and it's probably worth noting that the second story of this house is actually just right next door. They don't actually have a second story right above us. So if characters walking up those stairs, they would just have to cut when he gets to the top. They would have to resume filming on the other side of the house, the upstairs, to show him walking up the stairway that leads to nothing. And then they would just cut those scenes together, and it would look like he's walking up the stairs. We've got the kitchen in here. Oh, you can see the daytime cyclorama sheet right outside the back door that's sitting open right now. And you can see just how much equipment they have. It's not all the stuff above us. You can see all the stuff that they have stored in the back. Parenthood was actually just on hiatus, and they're about to start their 6th season. They're starting on Monday. It's going to be their 6th and final season. So if you guys don't watch Parenthood, you should actually watch it. It's a very incredible show, especially considering how quickly they make every episode. They can film an episode in 7 to 10 days. That's from beginning to end. That's the end of post-production. That means they're working at a very rapid rate to get every single episode made in a timely fashion in order for them to be released on the release dates that they're supposed to be out. To put that into perspective, some movies can take 1 to 2 years to complete. So a TV show that's maybe about half the length of an actual movie is working in a much more compressed time schedule than a feature film. So it's a lot of craftsmen that are really excellent at their craft that are working on a lot of our shows. So it's very impressive. Now this is not a real working kitchen. This oven doesn't work. The stovetop works in as much as you can turn the flames on. That way it just looks like they're actually brewing tea or cooking whatever they're doing. We don't really need to cook anything in this oven. You could just put a cooked turkey in there, have them pull it out, and it would look like it's been cooked in the oven. But once all these lights are on, you can tell it's pretty warm right now. They're not blasting the air conditioning or anything, and they don't do that when they're filming because they're going to pick up the sound of the air conditioning on all of their sound recorders. So you can imagine, with all of these lights on, and the weather as it is now, if they're having an oven there as well, it's just like, ugh, don't worry about it. That's not going to happen. We got a sink here, obviously. There's a sink here. But there's no actual plumbing in this house. This isn't a real house. This is just a set that they use. There's a little spout in the back of the sink where they can hook up a hose so they can turn water on if they need to. But since there's no plumbing, they just have to put a bucket underneath the sink to catch the water. Got the fridge. It's a real fridge, but the motor's been taken out, again, so it doesn't click on and start running during any takes and ruin any of the audio. You've also got the neighbor's house right out here. It's actually not a real set, it's just a wall. It's just a wall over there, and it cuts off at the edges of the windows just where the cameras would capture it, because you're never going to see beyond the walls of that house. The neighbors that live over there aren't really characters. We don't have a set over there. All you need to see is that wall, because you don't want to see the wall of the soundstage out back there. And these windows actually tilt in and out and all around to the sides. And the reason all those windows tilt is if they've set up a scene and they're ready to shoot it and you can see, let's say, a cameraman in one of the reflections, instead of resetting the scene and relighting everything and repositioning the cameraman, they can just tilt the windows to avoid that. They can also avoid any harsh glares that you might see in any of the shots. They can just tilt the window, kind of fix that and stuff in here. Let's go next door to the upstairs. I got a little black piece of tape over the logo on the TV. We don't have an agreement with Dell.
Deixa esse moço passar.
Addie's room, guys, go in there as well. This is Max's room, if anyone's familiar with the show. Hattie's room yesterday was fully dressed. It had a bed, it had furniture, it was fully decorated, and now it's empty aside from the things on the wall. So they're getting ready to film pretty quick. Hattie's away at college, so I guess we don't need her room anymore. And art direction is really important in addressing some of our sets because they don't just throw things in randomly inside of a room. They really try to capture the character when they're dressing some of the sets. So if you know the character, if you watch the show and you look in there and you understand kind of about Max's character and what he's all about, the set decoration is actually really impressive with the amount of work and thought that they put into dressing the sets. Here's the stairway that they walk up for the upstairs. Go to the master bedroom. Bedroom. Got a bathroom here. Again, no
Essa é a escada que eles usam para subir.
There's a shower right on the other side there. But if you open this closet door, there's actually no shower in there, and there's also no closet. I mean, if you think about the physics of this room, it doesn't even make sense that there would be a closet facing right where the bathroom is. But you're never really going to see inside this closet. If they ever do show inside the closet, they can just cut to a tighter shot of someone in an actual closet, place those things together. Obviously, it's a show on television, you're not going to see anyone in the shower either. The cool thing about the bedroom, if you walk over to this window and kind of look up, there are also, in addition to wild walls, there are flyaway walls, which can go straight up to get out of the way when we need to store things inside the soundstage. But you can see the neighbor's house just beyond the window upstairs. And once we go back out into the soundstage, I'll point it out so you can get a clear view of it. But essentially looks like a huge wall of a dollhouse. It's not an actual house, obviously, but it's very small. And the reason that looks convincing on film is a technique called forced perspective. And when we look at things in real life, most of us have two eyes, and we can see depth to things. If we only had one eye, we couldn't see around things, we wouldn't see depth, so things would be very flat to us. Everything would look like a painting. That's how filmmaking is, and that's how television shows are, unless it's being filmed specifically with 3D cameras. And 3D cameras are essentially two lenses so that it can replicate a human eye. But most lenses are just one lens, and think of them kind of like a human eye, and only one of them, everything looks flat. So you can have a character that's very, very large and a character that's very, very small, and you can stagger them to have a small character look like the same size character as the large character, right? This is example making sense. I don't know why I pulled that one out. But when you look at them through a lens, they would look the same size. Does that make sense? It's the same thing with this house over here. Even though it's very, very small, we can't tell how actually far away it is. We can in real life because we can see depth, but in a movie or TV show, we can't tell how far away it is. Another person that used forced perspective very effectively was Hitchcock. He was famous for how much forced perspective he used and some of the creative ways that he employed it. There's a movie he made called Notorious where you see a character walking down a stairway at one point in the film. Later in the movie, he built another staircase that was about 3 times as long, and he filmed it from a different angle, so you couldn't tell that the stairway was long, and you just assumed it was the same staircase. And it's a very suspenseful scene where the character is running down the stairs and he has to hurry up and get to the bottom, but the audience is waiting on the edge of their seat because they're like, what is taking him so long to run down these stairs that we've already seen him go down a few times? That's forced perspective. That doesn't let us realize that it's a normal size staircase. Does anyone have any questions about sound stages, about the show, about the set? No? Is everyone going to go home and watch Parenthood? No? Okay, let's head out and go down the stairs that lead to downstairs, but actually just lead back into the sound stage.
Ouais, clairement. Comme le truc de tout à l'heure. C'est spécial. Ouais.
You guys can see from out here, this is what the neighbor's house looks like. It's kind of pulled up to the ceiling right now, but it really just looks like a huge dollhouse. It doesn't really look that realistic when we're standing near it. You can see the plants on it aren't even like miniature plants. They're just like fake house plants stuck right on it. But you're never really going to get a clear shot of that house. And when you just kind of see it out the corner of your eye when they're walking through the bedroom, you're never really going to think anything of it. It doesn't look that convincing right here, but it's actually very convincing on screen. That's a sound stage. Pretty cool? Yes? No? All right, awesome. Let's go back to the trolley, and Brittany's going to take us somewhere else.